In my previous life, I married a cold-blooded and ruthless general. The general loved his concubine and tormented me to death. My elder sister married the heir of the Marquis household. The heir was aloof and noble, yet he loved money as much as his life and was extremely stingy. My elder sister, for the mere sum of 5 taels of silver, directly embraced the heir and perished together with him, reborn just moments before stepping into the bridal sedan. My elder sister was the first to lift the veil. How about we swap? Swap it is. Then, she took my place and married into the ruthless and devouring general's manor, while I took hers and wed the stingy, difficult, and greedy heir of the Marquis's household. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I was reborn just a moment before getting on the bridal sedan. The wound on my back still seemed to ache faintly. My nails digging into my flesh, my body swaying slightly. It felt as if just moments ago, Zhong Shiqian's whip was still striking me. Tang Wei, how dare you, of all people, bully Anan. Anan is so delicate she can't even take care of herself, and yet a vicious woman like you would cause her to fall, nearly costing her the child in her womb. Today, if I don't beat you to death, I will have wronged Anan. Zhong Shiqian is the husband I am to marry. And also the renowned tiger might general of the entire Xiao kingdom. He has a fierce temper, yet he dotes on his concubine Anan, whom he brought back from the battlefield. For Anan's sake, he didn't hesitate to kill me. I clenched my fists tightly, about to resist the marriage, when I heard my legitimate elder sister sigh softly beside me. My legitimate elder sister, Tang He, was to be married on the same day as me. And the man she was to marry was none other than the renowned Marquis Mansion's heir, Qi Yu, of the capital. Are you nervous, elder sister? I asked. You don't understand. My elder sister's voice was full of resentment. Qi Yu is a miser who loves money more than his own life. Not only does he cut back on the expenses of every household, but he even set his sights on my elder sister's dowry. In my previous life, every time I saw my elder sister, she was dressed in the plainest of plain clothes, not a single hairpin or ornament adorned her head, and she couldn't even eat an extra bite of food. My elder sister, once a refined lady from a noble family, has turned into a glutton who can't resist grabbing 2 big pork hocks at once. Every time the general's mansion serves a meal, she always shows up right on time to freeload, and even takes some pastries and snacks home for later, at the mere thought of the general's mansion's small kitchen. My sister lifted her bridal veil and raised an eyebrow at me. How about we swap? Feeling the non-existent wound on my back, I nodded hastily. Swapping it is. Then, the Marquis's residence was decorated with lanterns and streamers, bustling with activity. I hid in the bridal chamber, feeling uneasy. In my previous life, I had seen the Marquis's heir, Qi Yu. In the entire capital, there was no young nobleman more handsome and refined than Qi Yu. Not only was Qi Yu skilled in archery and horsemanship, well-versed in music, but he also excelled in writing, earning praise even from the imperial family. Despite his noble and illustrious background, he was notoriously stingy, to the point that if he found a single coin on the road, he would argue with a beggar over it. Later, my proud and strong-willed elder sister married into the Marquis's household, not only depleting all her personal dowry but also having to embroider to make ends meet. In the most difficult times, she reached out to me, begging for 5 taels of silver to cover medical expenses. This undoubtedly pierced my elder sister's heart. I still remember how she resentfully shoveled rice into her mouth while complaining to me, that scoundrel Qi Yu deserves to be alone for the rest of his life. Even if I, Tang He, were to divorce, I would never choose to spend a lifetime with him in mutual disgust. My elder sister clearly did not divorce Qi Yu but instead dragged him down to hell with her. Unlike my strong-willed elder sister, I am the youngest daughter in the family and have been known as a crybaby since childhood, falling down and crying, being scolded and crying. Even a mosquito bite would make me whimper softly and pitifully. Zhong Shiqian often scolded me for being unlucky, saying I had none of the dignity befitting the lady of the house. The only time I didn't cry was when Zhong Shiqian lashed me with a whip. Cry? Why aren't you crying? Tang Wei, you're just pathetic. Who are you putting on this pitiful act for every day? Anan is too delicate to take care of herself, and you're just crying along. I'm sick of the sight of your face. Later, I was beaten to death, only to be reborn just before getting on the wedding sedan. The thought that Qi Yu was such a miser made me start munching on the longans and peanuts scattered on the wedding quilt. Halfway through, I hurriedly reached for water, but as I fumbled around, my hand landed on a slender, strong palm. Following the line of sight up from the palm, I met Qi Yu's eyes. which seemed to hold a hint of a mocking smile, with sword-like brows sweeping toward his temples and lips as red as if painted with vermilion, one corner of his brow slightly raised. He stood there in crimson robes, all the more resembling a gentleman of jade, elegant and refined, courteous and well-mannered, yet I, of all people, knew exactly what kind of scoundrel he truly was. Just as Chi-Yu was about to open his mouth to rebuke me, I burst into loud, dramatic sobs. Unlike my elder sister's graceful and charming demeanor, my chin still carries a hint of baby fat, and my eyes, often moistened with tears, appear misty and damp. Husband, I'm sorry, I was just so hungry, sob. Am I not allowed to eat these things? Chi-Yu, like my elder sister, is rigid in character and does everything by the book. The two of them often clash head-on, constantly competing and challenging each other, but Chi-Yu had never seen a woman who could cry at the drop of a hat like me. Instead of uttering a single word of blame, his face showed 7 parts helplessness and 3 parts lingering fear. You mustn't cry. Seeing me wail even louder, he grew somewhat anxious, stepped forward, and directly covered my mouth. I was so frightened that I stopped crying. We were too close, and I could hear the man's light breathing by my ear. Tang-hee, if you keep crying, I won't let you eat anything. I instantly stopped crying. Seeing me stop crying in an instant, Chi-Yu was so angry he almost laughed. He let out a cold laugh, patted his leg, and gestured for me to sit over there. I shook my head. No, I don't dare. In the previous life, through the constant slander of my elder sister, Chi-Yu had already been demonized by her. During a private conversation between sisters, my elder sister once asked me, "How does the general treat you?" I hesitated and couldn't come up with an answer. My elder sister poked my forehead and said, "What a fool you are." She sighed softly. Chi-Yu is simply inhuman. On our wedding night, I was shy and timid, and he, my elder sister, shook her head. He actually reached out his hand and asked for money, as Chi-Yu reached out and pulled me into his embrace. I was so frightened I didn't dare to breathe. His fingers rested on my waist, toying with the tassel hanging there. His lashes lowered slightly, obscuring his expression, yet there was an inexplicable air of both desire and cold detachment about him. Yet his breath was warm, his lips slowly drawing near, as if testing, even more like a tease. Watching his incomparable face draw closer, I was utterly at a loss for words. Whose husband? I have no silver. TSK. After hearing my words, Chi-Yu finally broke into a smile, turning his head to let out a light chuckle. Noticing my stiffened, straight back, his eyes held a faint trace of amusement. Helping my lady with her worries, I won't charge a single coin. My eyes widened in an instant. This is nothing like what my legitimate sister said. A deeper smile appeared in Chi-Yu's eyes. Wife, it seems you know your husband inside and out. I'm not. I don't talk nonsense. I giggled foolishly, my eyelashes still dotted with tiny teardrops from earlier crying. And no, it's just that, I thought my husband, being as noble as an orchid and jade tree, wouldn't care for such vulgar things as gold and silver. All my words were stifled in my mouth by him. I racked my brains but couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. Mingming, my dear sister, said that this fellow Chi-Yu is petty and rude, nitpicking over every little thing, utterly vulgar and unbearable. Yet for 3 days in a row, not only did Chi-Yu not mention a word about the dowry money, he even seemed eager to move the entire Marquis's estate into my courtyard. The meals at the Marquis's estate, though not lavish, were complete in every way and nutritionally balanced. To say that Chi-Yu is harsh is quite unreasonable. I sat in the rocking chair, completely baffled. Suddenly, I sat bolt upright, struck by a terrifying possibility. Could that scoundrel Chi-Yu be waiting for me to let my guard down so he can wipe us all out in one fell swoop? Yuju, where is the dowry list for your young mistress? Quickly bring it to me to see. The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt, so I hurriedly urged Yuju to fetch the dowry list. Just before stepping into the bridal sedan, I swapped identities with my legitimate sister. Now, I am Tang He, the legitimate daughter of the Tang family. And Yuju is the personal maid who serves the legitimate sister. Yuju was somewhat displeased. It was clearly the eldest young lady who was to marry the heir of the Marquis household, but now she has to be with some reckless brute. You, second young lady, now you even covet the dowry money of the eldest young lady. She was fuming, speaking out against the injustice on behalf of her own young lady. I rolled my eyes. You don't know this, do you? Your young lady has grown tired of a restrained life and detests the rules of noble households the most. The general's residence is so carefree, The general is a rough-and-tumble man who doesn't involve himself in anything except military campaigns and battles. He leaves all household affairs alone. Who's to say your young lady isn't lounging on a cushion gnawing on a pork knuckle right now, Tilda? Yuju stomped her foot in anger. My young lady is refined and polite, and values propriety above all. Her dining and tea etiquette are impeccable. How could she be as crude as you say? I smiled without a word and took a direct sip of the iced tea Yuju had made. The air is filled with the aroma of milk, still steaming with a chill. Yuju, you must remember, what suits you best is the best. Chi-Yu is clever and the most cunning. Although your elder sister is intelligent, she is straightforward at heart and no match for that old fox. I'm different, Tilda. I have a thick skin and love to cry. At worst, I can just cry my way back to my parents' home. Chi-Yu isn't afraid of losing face, and I'm even less afraid. I had just finished speaking with a smile when a clear, mellow male voice came from behind me. What did you just say about me, my dear? I turned my head with a creak, and as I looked back, I saw Chi-Yu holding my cup of iced tea, sipping it slowly. Fine droplets of condensation clung to his slender fingers along the rim of the bowl, looking delicate and alluring. Perhaps the tea was too cold, making his lips appear even more moist and red. When the corners of his lips curled slightly, there was an indescribable, bewitching charm. Yet, I felt my heart grow cold. Whose husband? I forced a stiff, awkward smile. When did you arrive, husband? Chi-Yu tapped his temple with a finger and said slowly, it's too hot. I can't quite remember. Perhaps it started with something like clever-minded and most cunning. He blinked. His eyes seemingly filled with confusion. I glanced out of the corner of my eye, wanting to pull Yuju in to save the situation. Who would have thought that Yuju, that wretch, seeing things take a turn for the worse, had already slipped away, making a quick escape. What is my lady looking at? Chi-Yu reached out and pinched my chin, forcing my eyes back onto him. His fingers still carried a chill, like a guillotine blade poised at my neck. My lady hasn't yet explained what it means to be cunning and utterly deceitful, as my elder sister said. This Chi-Yu is indeed petty, rude, and loves to nitpick. I rolled my eyes and smiled ingratiatingly. Husband must have misheard. I clearly said you are clever and thoughtful, the most considerate of all. Before I could finish my words, Chi-Yu's lips, still moist with tea, pressed against mine. He gave a light peck and whispered softly, don't forget. We're returning to my parents' home tomorrow. I was kissed into a daze, and it wasn't until dusk began to fall that I gradually came to my senses. How much did Chi-Yu actually overhear? When I saw my legitimate sister again, I was nearly shocked out of my wits. Is this still the same resentful legitimate sister? Even Zhong Shiqian, who was usually reckless and rude, had changed his demeanor. As he supported my sister, it was as if he were holding a rare and precious treasure. Whenever my elder sister coughed, Zhong Shiqian's eyes would brim with deep concern. Did you catch a chill yesterday, my dear? Could it be that I was too reckless and upset you? Zhong Shiqian fussed around my elder sister, who remained indifferent, giving him a cool, fleeting glance. With just that one glance, Zhong Shiqian scratched his head and let out a foolish chuckle. I was utterly dumbfounded. My elder sister appeared delicate and fragile. With a figure so unsteady she seemed to sway with every few steps. What kind of sorcery had she used to make the ruthless and battle-hardened General Huey lose his composure? Seeing me standing there in a daze, my elder sister beckoned to me. Sister, come here. I was taken aback for a moment before realizing my elder sister was calling me. She gently touched my still chubby, baby-faced cheeks, showing a hint of satisfaction. It seems you've been doing well at the Marquis's residence. That puts my mind at ease, Tilda. However, seeing the intimate way my legitimate sister treated me, Zhong Shiqian immediately became jealous. You've never been this gentle with me, wife. My heart aches here. Zhong Shiqian clutched his chest, glaring at my legitimate sister with wide eyes. My legitimate sister directly kicked him in the back of the knee. Zhong Shiqian, don't make me slap you. Zhong Shiqian stood up with a grievance, like a mighty yet timid chick. Staying close to his legitimate sister, I glanced at Zhong Shiqian silently, then took another look. The person in my memory was far too fierce. Seeing the tiger-wielding general acting like a little lamb now was truly laughable. As I walked out of the pavilion, looking back every few steps, I was still in a daze. Inside the pavilion, Zhong Shiqian plucked a flower and tried to place it on my elder sister's head. My elder sister swatted his hand away, and Zhong Shiqian looked somewhat hurt. But when she patted his head in a token gesture, he immediately perked up, all lively and eager to please. So, Zhong Shiqian likes the fierce and domineering type. Just as I was lost in thought, I accidentally bumped into a firm chest. Looking up, I saw Chi-Yu's dark, stern face. His lips were tightly pressed together, as if he was angry. Had enough, I foolishly responded, which only made Chi-Yu even angrier. He even let out an angry laugh, his tone dangerous. Then, my dear wife, do tell me, is Zhong Shiqian better, or am I better? Even if I were foolish, I would have realized something was wrong. I quickly flattered Chi-Yu with a fawning smile. Of course, my husband is the best. My husband is tall and handsome, excelling in both archery and music. How could that brute Zhong Shiqian ever compare? Chi-Yu's expression softened a bit at my praise, but he still wouldn't let it go. You've been stealing glances at him all this way, yet you haven't looked at me once. I just wanted to see the legitai. I caught myself and changed my tone. I just wanted to see how my legitimate sister is doing. I almost forgot my own identity. Chi-Yu's probing gaze swept over my face before he spoke in a light, detached tone. Does Heir feel that I, your husband, have treated you poorly? How could that be? My husband is the best, the very, very, very best. Tilda. Only after I finished speaking did I realize that Chi-Yu had been tricking me into revealing my thoughts. My original name was Tang Wei, but because I switched identities with my legitimate sister, I changed it to Tang He. But just now, he clearly called me by my original name. He must have heard every single word I said with Yuju yesterday, without missing a single one. It's also my fault for being foolish. When I heard my own name, not only did I not refute it, but I even went along with what he said. I timidly looked up and saw Chi-Yu's expression darken a few shades. Heir. He chuckled lightly, propping his chin with his hand. So the Tang family really has the guts of a bear and the courage of a leopard, daring to swap sisters for marriage. Do they really think I, the heir of the Marquis household, am just a useless idler? After saying that, he lifted his foot to leave, clearly intending to confront my parents. I was terrified and grabbed Chi-Yu from behind. Chi-Yu, don't you dare go. Tears soaked through the thin fabric of his shirt. And I begged him with a trembling voice, it's all my fault, don't blame my parents, and it's not my sister's fault either. It was me. I admired the heir so much that I cried and made a scene in private, forcing my elder sister to swap marriages with me. I was sobbing uncontrollably, but Chi-Yu's voice carried a strange tone. You admired me? He asked. I know it was wrong, but my elder sister is better than me in every way. Even her husband is far superior to mine. I couldn't accept it. Amidst my sobs, Chi-Yu turned around and looked down at my tear-streaked face, red at the tip of my nose. A trace of confusion seemed to flicker in his eyes. Do you truly admire me so much, as true as pearls? I nodded in a fluster, only to be caught off guard as he pinched my plump chin. My lady, this mouth of yours truly makes one torn between love and hate. His eyes were filled with tender affection, as if all the coldness from before had been my illusion. After tossing and turning, he replied to me with a light pant. Since my lady holds me in such high regard, it makes it hard for me to be too harsh on you. After all, with a husband as outstanding as I am, it's only natural that you can't help yourself. Suddenly, I really want to kick Chi-Yu, just like my elder sister did. So, the one I, the heir, am marrying is the second daughter of the Tang family, Tang Wei. After hearing my explanation, Chi-Yu spread his fingers, clasped mine one by one, and gradually tightened his grip. His fingers were slender, like meticulously carved pieces of fine jade. When he applied a bit of force, my knuckles began to ache with a faint, lingering pain. I pouted, my eyes once again growing misty with tears. It hurts, my husband, it really hurts. Chi-Yu paused slightly, the pressure on my fingers tightening a bit more. This is your punishment. He looked down at me, his thin eyelashes casting a shadow like cicada wings, and spoke my name word by word. Tang Wei. His tone, though plain and unremarkable, was drawn out, slow and deliberate, inexplicably carrying a warmth that made one's cheeks flush and heart race. What do you want? I bared my teeth in a feigned show of ferocity, but with tears welling up in my eyes. I looked like a little cat brandishing its claws, utterly non-threatening. Chi-Yu chuckled softly. My wife, can't I even call for you? Me, looking pitiful and aggrieved, I stayed at my parents' home for 3 days in a row, and my elder sister kept me company with casual chats all 3 days. After hearing my evaluation of Chi-Yu, my elder sister clicked her tongue in amazement. Could it be that Chi-Yu was won over by your tears? Otherwise, how could a stingy and stubborn heir of a Marquis household manage to raise you so plump and fair? I gave my elder sister a playful punch. Eldest sister, have you never cried? Eldest sister laughed, her eyes sparkling with joy, her cheeks flushed like peach blossoms. Your eldest sister would rather break than bend, asking me to cry for Chi-yu. I'd rather die. What about Zhong Shiqian? I asked. My elder sister lifted her chin and cast a disdainful glance at me. Of course, take the enemy's path so they have nowhere to go. So, you killed Anan. I covered my mouth. The time of our rebirth is still early, and Zhong Shiqian has not yet abandoned his wife for a battlefield orphan's concubine. This is probably why my elder sister had the courage to marry into the general's household. What are you thinking? My elder sister poked my head and said through gritted teeth, I just sent someone to find that woman first and arranged a good marriage for her. By rights, she should thank me. My elder sister was meticulous in her actions, clearly having long since cut off Zhong Shiqian's path to rekindle their past relationship. I silently gave a thumbs up. Although my elder sister and I share a deep sisterly bond, Zhong Shiqian sees me as the one who stole his beloved wife. For this, he even made a special trip to stand before me, nostrils flared arrogantly. I heard from your legitimate sister about the matter of sisters swapping marriages. But I and your legitimate sister are truly in love. Since our fate has been severed, I hope you won't harbor any improper thoughts. I was dumbfounded. If I were to live my life again, if he weren't my legitimate sister's husband, I would have long sent him to the afterlife with a cup of poisoned wine. I have no idea how this man could be so shameless, actually guarding against me, scheming against their married couple. I was about to curse when suddenly someone from behind wrapped an arm around my shoulder. Chi-yu held me in his embrace, his gaze fixed directly on Zhong Shiqian. The same goes for you, General. Holding me, he spoke in a tone that brooked no argument. Heir is this prince's consort. I acknowledge only Heir. Certain individuals should not harbor any improper thoughts, lest I turn my back and show no mercy. That night, I heard that Zhong Shiqian poured out his grievances to my elder sister, saying that he came to find me only to put an end to my foolish fantasies. His heart belongs solely to my elder sister, as heaven and earth bear witness, and the sun and moon can testify. In the end, it was the legitimate eldest sister who kicked him in the chest, finally putting a stop to his incessant chatter. The legitimate eldest sister pressed her foot against his chest, her delicate foot gradually moving upward until it reached Zhong Shiqian's chin, applying a slight pressure. Zhong Shiqian. I am not Heir. You cannot manipulate me as you please. Zhong Shiqian looked at the bright red nail polish on the tip of the legitimate eldest sister's foot, and in an instant, all his grievances turned into motivation. As the days of being the crown princess passed, I gradually came to understand a bit of Chi-yu's temperament. The more serene and composed he appeared on the surface, the more malicious his thoughts were in private, under his subtle, relentless bullying. I found myself crying more and more, but slowly, I realized that the more tears welled up in my eyes, the more excited he became. Sure enough, those who love me can't bear to see me suffer the slightest grievance, while those who don't love me make even crying a sin. After being bullied by Chi-yu once again, I bit my lip, refusing to let myself shed a tear, worried that I might bite through my lip. Chi-yu pried my mouth open with his fingers, forcing me to bite down on his knuckle instead. The bad man's eyes curved slightly, the corners of his lips lifted high with an unreadable smile, yet he sighed lightly. Heir, if you want to cry, just cry out loud, don't bite yourself. I glared at him even more furiously, my eyes wide and round. You, he hesitated slightly, then covered my eyes with his hand. Don't look at me like that, I can't help it. I turned my back to him, ignoring Chi-yu. My mistake, I shouldn't have given him 1,000 taels of silver out of pity when he asked me for money. Chi-yu's expression at that moment was a mix of amusement and something else, as if brimming with endless playfulness. Are you truly giving this much, my lady? I lifted my chin high, attempting to mimic a bit of the domineering aura of my legitimate elder sister. If it's not enough, there's more. Sister will take care of you. Chi-yu's smile deepened little by little. I remember telling you on our wedding night that I would share your worries without charging a single penny. He leaned down, gradually closing in on me, his ink-dark eyes tinged with a hidden amusement, and the second half of that saying, take the money, do the job, for 1,000 taels of silver. One must exert the effort of 1,000 taels. It was my lack of consideration that has wronged you, my dear. Liar, I cried out in grievance, greedy for both wealth and lust, truly. Utterly wicked. I ignored Chi-yu, and Chi-yu refused to coax me. He seemed very busy, disappearing every day without a trace, leaving me alone in the Marquis's residence, gradually feeling bored. By the time we crossed paths again in front of me, I almost didn't recognize him. Chi-yu was originally a gentleman of noble character and refined manners, but now, I only see a touch of vicissitudes on his face. When Chi-Yu rested his stubbled chin on my shoulder, I looked up at him seriously. Are you short of money? How much more do you need? If it weren't for the lack of money, the items in the Marquis residence wouldn't have been pawned off one by one these past few days. Except for my dowry. Chi-Yu glanced at me in surprise, a hint of helpless laughter in his eyes. It's not a big problem. There's no need to use my lady's dowry yet. Nonsense. Clearly in the previous life, my heart ached with bitterness, yet I still called for Yuju to bring the dowry list. Husband and wife are one. All that I have, my lord, you may take. Chi-Yu's gaze toward me instantly turned complex. Aren't you afraid? He said. I'm not. My voice trembled slightly, but my gaze remained resolute. At worst, I'll just bring my husband along to my elder sister's house for a free meal. I told you. My sister will take care of you. Chi-Yu suddenly burst into laughter. He held my hand, his grip tightening bit by bit, almost greedily inhaling the scent on me. Vera. Having you is truly wonderful. In February of the following year, it was heard that the Ministry of Personnel had confiscated the property of the Imperial Merchant Shen family. The piles of family silver unearthed from those warehouses were simply dazzling to the eyes of the capital's people. The bailiffs pushed and carried heavy silver balls, each weighing 1,000 taels, parading them through the streets before locking them away in the treasury. The Shen family was also imprisoned. It was said they had colluded with the kingdoms of Nanjiao to disrupt the prices in northern Liang. The national treasury went to great lengths to stabilize the grain prices. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, the prices of grain and vegetables in northern Liang had also risen day by day. The common people were filled with grievances, and many tenant farmers, despite having full granaries, barely survived by selling their children. However, the rise in grain prices in my previous life was a chronic issue that had accumulated over several years. Even before my death, the Imperial Merchant Shen family was still bustling with activity, spending money extravagantly, their luxury no less than that of princes and nobles. Yet in this life, the Shen family has declined and fallen with lightning speed, and the reasons behind it are worth pondering. Chi-Yu has been away from home for several days again, and I've heard that he also played a part in the confiscation efforts. I have a vague feeling that everything in my past life had its causes. For peace of mind, I took the jade beads and went up the mountain to worship the Buddha. Unexpectedly, the weather was fine when I set out, but halfway there, a heavy rain poured down, turning the road into a muddy mess. By the time the carriage strayed off course, it was too late for regrets. Just as I was about to get out of the carriage, several masked bandits suddenly emerged from the woods by the roadside and abducted me. When I woke up, I found myself tied up in a cellar. Beside me, Yuju was still unconscious. Not far away, a young man was sharpening a knife, looking at me with a fierce glare. Are you the crown princess? He walked up to me with a blade in hand. I heard Chi-Yu dotes on you a lot, even if I were foolish. I should have realized by now that this person was here because of Chi-Yu. Recalling the rumors in the capital, I didn't answer but instead asked in return, are you from the Shen family? A glimmer of admiration flickered in the young master's eyes, but nothing more. I've heard that Lord Qi cherishes his wife dearly. I wonder, would he be willing to spare a few members of the Shen family for your sake? You jest, sir. A trace of panic rose in my eyes, but I answered earnestly. Everyone in the capital knows that Chi-Yu originally sought to marry my elder sister. It was only by a twist of fate that I, the unworthy younger sister, ended up marrying into the Marquis's household. How could Chi-Yu ever trade my life for the Shen family's? He hates me too much for that. What a sharp-tongued young lady. But the young master was relentless. Whether it works or not, we'll only know by trying. He pushed me forward, step by step. As I climbed out of the cellar and stepped onto the stairs, I realized the rain outside had not stopped. The world was vast and misty, with raindrops striking the ground, washing away the dust. In the midst of this silence, I saw Chi-Yu's somber, calm face. Behind him stood guards clad in raincoats, each holding a sword, poised and ready. Chi-Yu, I wanted to run forward, but the person behind me held a knife to my neck. I've changed my mind. The young master behind me had a mocking look in his eyes, his gaze fixed on Chi-Yu, as if growing more certain in his heart. Chi-Yu, the Shen family is finished, and I don't expect to live, but if you want to save your lady, why not? He deliberately paused with a wicked tone, letting out a hoarse chuckle in his throat. Kill yourself. In the next instant, he threw a dagger into the curtain of rain. I'm about to cry again. Through the heavy rain, Chi-Yu said to me, Weiya, don't be afraid. He picked up the dagger, his voice cold. Shen-er, I hope you keep your word. Then the dagger pierced the flesh, and a large amount of blood spread out, gradually washing away under the rain. yet the smell of blood in the air lingered persistently. The tears on my face flowed like a river, yet Chiyu was smiling, his lips were pale, but he still had the heart to comfort me. Heir, it's my fault, I shouldn't have made you cry, from now on, no more tears. Alright, I nodded hurriedly, wiping away my tears, but they kept falling uncontrollably. Ha ha ha, how laughable, who would have thought the usually cold-hearted and unfeeling Heir could end up like this? Madam, you have rendered an invaluable service. The laughter of the person behind me trembled, causing the knife at my neck to shake along with it, nearly cutting my throat. Just as I was about to recklessly push away the person behind me, a long spear fell from the sky, piercing straight through the top of that person's head. Zhong Shiqian, holding the spear with one hand, dropped from the rooftop. Just before hitting the ground, he used the momentum to dissipate the force and kicked straight at the person behind him. I too regained my freedom and ran straight into the rain, helping Chiyu up. Chiyu, my heart was in turmoil. I held his hand, my face full of panic and disarray. Yet Chiyu was still smiling. He said, Heir, as long as you're alright. That's all that matters. What a fool. Half carrying and half dragging him, I got him into the carriage. Only when the curtain shielded us from the wind and rain did I tremble as I reached to tear open the front of his robe. He'd lost so much blood Chiyu would die, but Chiyu held my hand, not letting me move. He said, Heir, I'm not going to make it. Before I die, I just want to ask you one thing. Do you regret marrying me? I don't regret it, not at all. Tears in my eyes kept falling no matter how I wiped them. Chiyu, I love you the most. Marrying you was the happiest thing in my life. Even if I always make you cry, you don't get angry, right? Chiyu asked again. I'm not angry, not at all. Even if Chiyu is a scoundrel and makes me cry 800 times a day, I won't be angry. Chiyu, please don't die. Okay, really, will you keep your word, my dear? Chiyu shakily extended his little finger, wanting to hook it with mine. My crying stopped abruptly, and I looked at him with a hint of suspicion in my eyes. Although Chiyu's lips were pale, his complexion was remarkably good. Under his intense gaze, I abruptly pulled open the front of his robe. The soft armor clung to the skin, with a blood bag made of pig intestine on the outside. Chiyu, the woman's voice in the carriage shook the heavens and the earth, startling the birds in the rain and sending a collective shiver down the spines of the accompanying guards. Under my cold violence, Chiyu completely confessed. The downfall of the Shen family was indeed my doing. He admitted. When did you get reborn? I asked. Chiyu's gaze suddenly shifted evasively. It was around the wedding night. I narrowed my eyes. So, you knew all along? He knew all along that I had swapped marriages with my legitimate sister. Yet he remained silent, making me anxious for so long. I was puzzled at the time too. Wondering if your legitimate sister had been reborn and was scheming to have you married into the Marquis's household. Chiyu's survival instinct kicked in. It was only later, overhearing your casual chat with Yuju, that I realized marrying into the Marquis's household was also your wish. So, when you looked at Zhong Shiqian, I was very angry. Chiyu grew more aggrieved as she spoke, her cold, placid eyes also veiled with an indescribable, inexplicable sorrow. My own wife has someone else in her heart. I am not happy. If you knew how I died, perhaps you wouldn't worry so much. I sighed. I was beaten to death by Zhong Shiqian, favoring the concubine and destroying the wife. That's exactly what he did. I'm going to kill him. Chiyu suddenly stood up and was about to rush out. I grabbed him, a slight smile curling at the corner of my lips. No need, his retribution has already come. A flicker of confusion passed through Chiyu's eyes. His retribution is his legitimate sister. The legitimate sister is strong-willed by nature. For Zhong Shiqian to win her heart, it would be incredibly difficult. To be honest, I have wronged her. Chiyu lowered his eyelashes slightly. In my previous life, I was too preoccupied with court affairs and treated her too harshly. It was my fault. Isn't it because she knows she has a sister she can sponge off of? I sneered. Chiyu raised her eyebrows slightly. The first time I saw you, I thought this little girl was plump and well-fed, must have had excellent meals. Tilda. How dare you? Chiyu, you actually dare to mock me. I wouldn't dare, my fault, spare me. The end.